Okay, let's jump right into this explainer because what we are about to uncover regarding the food hiding right in your very own pantry, it genuinely shocked me. I mean, we all like to think we know exactly what we're putting into our bodies, right? But the reality of the modern food industry might just make you look at your next grocery run completely differently. So, wood pulp on your pasta. It sounds like a total joke, doesn't it? But unfortunately, this is the very real, very hidden reality for a lot of unsuspecting shoppers. It turns out the food industry has some incredibly well kept secrets when it comes to what actually makes it inside our packaging. Throughout this explainer, we're going to unpack a pretty wild spectrum of culinary fakeouts. We'll start off with those cheap grocery store illusions that quietly pinch your pennies. Then we'll move into wildly expensive luxury scams, and we'll even uncover some alarming adulterations that could literally land you in the hospital. Sadly, the joke is usually on us. Let's kick things off with Section 1, Grocery Store Imposters and Everyday Food Fakes. Let's start with stuff you probably buy every single week. Take that unrefrigerated Parmesan cheese that comes in a little shaker can. Back in 2016, Bloomberg News exposed that Castle Cheese Inc. was plumping up its quote-unquote 100% real Parmesan with cellulose. Now, cellulose is technically an anti-clumping agent derived from wood pulp. And sure, goats can eat wood pulp, so technically it's a food. But last time I checked, you and I are not goats. The legal cap for this is supposed to be around 2 to 4%, but companies have absolutely exploited it to bump up weight and profit, filling the rest of the can with way cheaper cheeses like white cheddar and mozzarella. And get this, honey is actually the third most faked food in the entire world. You know that cheap dollar store honey bear you love? It's usually a total imposter called blend syrup. If you actually turn it around and check the label, ingredient number 1 is almost always corn syrup or rice syrup, and honey is merely ingredient number 2. It's essentially just cheap syrup dressed up with a tiny bit of real honey to fool you. I honestly couldn't believe how common this is. Even your daily cup of coffee isn't totally safe. If you buy pre-ground coffee, a 2020 study in the journal Foods found that it's frequently mixed with everything from barley, nuts, and legumes to literal husks and twigs. Because it's all ground up into this fine brown powder, you'd never visually know the difference. Let that sink in for a second. You might literally be drinking husks and twigs to kickstart your morning. No thank you. And the really crucial point here is that this coffee deception is only going to escalate. As climate change continues to shrink the acreage suitable for coffee growing by a predicted 50% by the year 2050, by the way, adulteration will inevitably get much worse as the supply drops. So the best takeaway for you, you should really start buying whole beans. They are significantly harder to manipulate than the pre-ground stuff. All right, let's level up to Section 2, the luxury food mirage and expensive scams. Let's see how this deception compounds when we start shelling out the big bucks. Imagine you're out at a really nice restaurant or maybe browsing a high-end seafood counter. When you pay a massive premium, say $32 a pound for Chilean sea bass, seafood suppliers know a little secret. Once that white fish is fried up and drenched in lemon juice, even a professional chef might struggle to identify it. So you might just be eating cheap tilapia that normally sells for under $10 a pound. And this is definitely not an isolated issue. Data from the conservation organization Oceana reveals a staggering fact. Roughly 21% of commercially available fish is entirely mislabeled. That means over 1/5 of the time, you aren't actually eating the fish you paid for. Let's unpack what this really means for our wallets. Consider the absolutely absurd math on saffron, which is the most expensive spice in the world. According to a 2010 Business Insider report, Spain exported 190,000 kilograms of it. Yet Spanish farmers reported harvesting only 1,500 kilograms. I mean, where in the world did the rest of it come from? Well, it proves that this incredibly expensive spice is frequently cut with cheap dyed corn silk or coconut filaments. The meat industry plays this game too for sure. If you're ordering a $200 Kobe steak in an American restaurant, there's a good chance you are getting completely scammed. True Kobe must meet incredibly strict requirements. The cattle have to be born and raised in the Hyogo prefecture in Japan. It has to be a specific breed, and the extremely limited supply is closely authenticated and tracked. But a lot of restaurants simply ignore those rules entirely and label standard Wagyu, or honestly worse, as Kobe. Moving right along to Section 3, bait and switch and hidden horse meat. Okay, now we escalate the deception from just wasting your hard-earned cash to genuinely grossing you out. Back in 2012 and 2013, a massive scandal absolutely rocked Europe. Consumers in Britain were unknowingly eating hamburgers from major, trusted grocery chains like Tesco and Aldi that actually contained 29% horse meat. Because it was all ground up and processed, everyday consumers literally couldn't tell the difference between the beef and the horse meat they were actually eating. And somehow, it gets even worse. This wasn't some tiny backyard operation. The supplier responsible was Anglo-Irish beef processors, an absolute behemoth in European beef processing. And just to add an extra layer of absolute disgust to the whole thing, they were reportedly mixing that horse meat with previously frozen beef that was so spoiled it was literally turning green. Just wow. And it's not just meat either. In 2017, Reuters reported a stunning revelation about olive oil. The actual mafia was involved in bottling olive oil pulp, which is basically the leftover garbage after the good olives are pressed, slapping an extra virgin label on it, and shipping it straight to the United States. Now, while most U.S. olive oil is perfectly genuine today, these isolated incidents really highlight exactly how far fraudsters will go to make a buck. So far, we've looked at economic greed and major gross-outs. But you have to ask, what happens when this deception physically threatens your life? When profit is prioritized entirely over human safety? Take turmeric. It's a spice highly sought after for that vibrant, bright yellow color. Well, to maximize profits and really enhance that color, manufacturers sometimes achieve that hue by cutting the turmeric with incredibly dangerous additives. We're talking dyes like Sudan red, poisonous raw cassava root, and in some parts of the world, even highly toxic lead chromate. All of that just to make a spice look a little more yellow. And as this chilling 2013 BBC warning shows, the risks absolutely extend to alcohol. The UK government seized massive amounts of fake vodka intended for thrifty holiday shoppers. The ingredients? Get ready for this. Antifreeze, industrial alcohol, and chloroform. By trying to save a few dollars on cheap liquor, people were unknowingly risking blindness, severe nerve damage, or even cancer from these fatal additives. Let's wrap things up with Section 4, the labeling illusion and legal loopholes. Let's conclude by looking at how even the fully legal premium labels you trust might just be a systemic illusion. We all know the imagery, right? Well, a 2019 lawsuit against Nellie's free-range eggs revealed a massive disconnect between consumer expectation and the legal reality. While you, the consumer, picture rolling green pastures and happy little animals, the legal definition of free-range is shockingly loose. It legally allows chickens to be crammed into indoor sheds with just over 1 square foot of space per bird, so long as they have a mere 6 hours of access to the outdoors. And what about organic? We all kind of assume organic means absolutely no pesticides. But actually, scratch that. It's simply not true. Organic farmers are legally allowed to use natural pesticides. For example, pyrethrins, which are derived from chrysanthemum flowers, are widely used. And according to the CDC, they aren't completely harmless either. High exposure can cause dizziness, convulsions, and even blacking out. Furthermore, because organic crops aren't routinely tested for synthetic pesticide residue, the whole system basically relies heavily on trust. This massive loophole allowed a single Missouri farmer to pass off $142 million worth of conventional grain as organic over several years. He finally got caught and pleaded guilty to wire fraud in 2019, but it just goes to show how fragile the system is. So this brings us to the end of our explainer, and I really want to leave you with this final provocative thought. Next time you're at the store reaching for that premium product, ask yourself, is the premium price actually worth the label, or are you just buying a carefully crafted illusion? Make sure you read your labels carefully, buy whole ingredients whenever you can, and always try to find trusted sources. Stay curious and definitely stay vigilant out there in the grocery aisles.